What I'm looking for is the information given to us by the ETs. Those are actually well documented, but the government really doesn't give an explanation on what happened. The government basically, especially in the last few decades, kept silence. And there are a few cases in which people claim that they were abducted or were in contact with ETs that came to visit us. So the mysterious disappearances of the ships and planes of the Bermuda Triangle, as well as the missing people in some of the national parks in the US and Canada, were actually caused by a natural phenomenon. So what happens is that, like in the space on Earth, there are naturally occurring warps that really connect our universe to a parallel universe. There are entry points in our space in which the ETs and the UFOs use as entry points and exit points of Earth. They're very Nordic looking. They have blonde hair. They're really tall, like 3 meters, and they don't age at all. Anti-gravity is a technology in which they're able to use at will. They're able to neutralize gravity using a vibrational frequency. So they're able to make a heavy object become weightless without weight. We are living on category 1 planet, the lowest category, and they are living on category 9 planet, the highest category, allowing him to see who he was in different reincarnations in his past lives. Goldsmith in Japan, or a beggar in Africa, and a queen on a different planet. So each reincarnation or each role we play is just like a wheel, at different positions on a wheel. What goes up has to come down. The most important thing is to be spiritual, to follow the teachings of Christ, to be compassionate and to love one another. It says that the Jesus born out of Virgin Mary was the one who was born from the embryo, implanted by the ETs. And it says that if nowadays people see the Star of Bethlehem, people would cry out, it's a UFO. But this is the ability that the ETs have to really superimpose this kind of experience onto a human being. I would use the word holographic simulation. The ancient pharaohs used the Great Pyramid as a tool to communicate with people on different planets, and also to make rain. They're also able to use it to explore parallel universe. So this is why they build their bases on the far side of the moon.
They're here, they're parked on the side of the crater, they're watching us.
Tudom, most arra gondolsz, hogy ki ez a Samuel Chong, ugye? Oké. Nos, Samuel Pekingben született, jelenleg Los Angelesben él és dolgozik, ahol ügyvédként és bírósági tolmácsként tevékenykedik. Kiemelkedő tudományos és szakmai háttérrel rendelkezik, közgazdasági diplomáját a University of California, Berkeley-n szerezte, majd gazdaságtörténetet tanult a London School of Economics falai között. Mesterképzését pénzügyi elemzésből a madridi Carlos, a harmadik egyetemen végezte el, valamint jogi doktori címet szerzett a Northwestern California University School of Law-nál. Pályafutása során hivatalos mandarin tolmácsként dolgozott az Egyesült Államok Szövetségi Bíróságain, valamint Kalifornia és New York államban. Emellett az Amerikai Fordítók Szövetségének elismert kínai fordítója. Egykoron a Los Angeles-i Kaliforniai Egyetem Extension programjában oktatóként is tevékenykedett. Tolmácsként együttműködött világhírű üzletemberekkel és kreatív szakemberekkel, többek közt Sir Richard Bransonnal, Warren Buffettel, Michael Dell-el, Michael Bay, Jackie Chan, valamint Disney Studios, Warner Brothers, Sony Entertainment, Lionsgate, BCG Digital Ventures, MGM, Westside Casting Studios, Phoenix Television, IMAX Corporation, China Film Group, DreamWorks Film Studios, the International Bank of Japan, British Petroleum, Fox International Channels, CBS Corporation, és akkor a lista felén sem tartok. E sokszínű tapasztalat révén Samuel átfogó képet szerzett a különböző iparágak működéséről, és egyedi képessége, hogy előre lássa a jövő lehetőségeit, egyre inkább előtérbe került. Samuel mély érdeklődés mutat a test-lélek-szellem hármas egysége, a spiritualitás, a tudatosság, valamint az ezoterikus ismeretek iránt. Előadóként olyan témákról beszél, mint a mentális ellenálló képesség, vezetői készségek, jólét és egészség, halálközeli élmények, spirituális fejlődés és földön kívüli intelligenciák. Már gyermekkorában lenyűgözte a paranormális világ, a portál eltűnések, valamint az idegenek általi elrablások rejtélye. Egy nap ráakadt Michel Desmarquet könyvére, Elrablás a 9. bolygóra, amely mély benyomást tett rá. A könyvben Michael saját élményeit írja le, amikor egy fejlett civilizáció elvitte őt a Thiaoouba nevű bolygóra. Itt betekintést nyert az emberiség valódi történelmébe, ősi civilizációk felemelkedésébe és bukásába, valamint az idegen csillagfajok szerepébe az emberiség fejlődésében. Miután Samuel elolvasta a könyvet, azóta lefordítatta mandarinra, és Kínában bestseller lett, és azóta is mindenkinek azt mondja, hogy a legjobb befektetés mindenki számára, aki elolvassa ezt a könyvet. Bár én angolul olvastam 2024-ben ezt a verziót, de ha hiszed, ha nem, az igazat megvalva én sem tudtam, de jó hír, hogy magyarul is megvan, és a privát Facebook csoportunkban már meg is osztottuk egymással, szóval nem lehet kifogás, hogy ne olvasd el, még akár ma. Itt szeretném megemlíteni, ha szeretnél csatlakozni a privát Facebook csoportunkba, akkor a linket a videó alatt megtalálod, illetve ne felejtsd el lájkolni a videót, iratkozz fel, és oszd meg legalább egy ismerősöddel. Ha pedig komolyabb összeggel akarod támogatni a munkámat, akkor nyitottam egy online boltot, ahol ha bármennyitől költesz, 25%-ot ledobnak nekem, és ez számodra sem kidobott pénz, mert nem csak egyedi prémium minőségű UFO-s cuccod lesz, de szponzorálod a csatornát. És egyértelműen a munkásságomat. Persze, ha nem veszel semmit, az interjúk és dokumentumfilmek érkeznek folyamatosan, ha tetszik, ha nem. Most pedig, ha készen állsz, induljon az interjú. Welcome, Samuel. How are you?
Good, very good.
Are you in Beijing right now, you said, right?
Yes, I'm in Beijing right now.
Yeah, I like Beijing. I've been there last year. Been to Shanghai, Beijing, Hong Kong, pretty nice places. I actually miss a bit Hong Kong. Sometimes I just want to go back. But yeah, Beijing was pretty beautiful as well. So you born there? Born in Beijing?
I was born in Beijing, yes.
Okay, but you live in LA, right? Like Los Angeles in the US?
Yes, I'm a lawyer in Los Angeles, in California.
Right. Yes, because I read about you that you also have been translating to quite a few famous people, right?
Yes, that's right.
Can you name a few? Is that right?
Yes, like Richard Branson, Rupert Murdoch, those are the people that I interpreted in the past. Yes.
Nice. All right, so I'm going to have a few general questions about Chinese ufology, and then we can get into the book. And finally, if we're going to have time, I've got some questions from like the Hungarian audience. What was the first UFO case that convinced you that the phenomenon is real?
Well, that is a story that I wrote. I read about when I was an elementary school student in China. There was a UFO magazine at that time that documented a case that's outside of China, saying that a physicist was taken by the ETs on their spacecraft, going around Earth and telling him about how Einstein made a mistake in his theories of relativity. So because of the mistake, people think that light barrier cannot be crossed. I mean, we cannot. This is why people still believe we cannot go at a faster speed than the speed of light. And I thought if the ETs can come and visit us, I mean, they must have advanced knowledge and advanced technologies. They can just tell us our mistakes and show us the technologies that they have and how to progress at a much faster pace. That's the first news story that I read about that really convinced me that it has to be real, because we just cannot be alone in the universe, and there has to be far more advanced civilizations in the universe that can guide us. That's deeply in my mind when I was young.
When was that? Do you remember the year?
That was sometime in 1984, 1985.
1985. So it's fair to say that you are uh, into the topic about 40 years. Is that correct?
That's right.
Or was there after a time that you didn't really look into it for a few years, or ever since you are continuously reading books on a topic, or
I mean, I kept reading that magazine, and that magazine just documented a lot of UFO cases,
uh-huh.
But not really ET abduction cases. If we just see the UFOs in the sky, this is just a phenomenon that doesn't really help us. It's a fun fact to consider, but it really doesn't help us to progress. Doesn't add any practical value. What I'm looking for is the information given to us by the ETs that can really help us. So that's the information that I was looking for, but I couldn't find such information. But I also learned about near-death experiences when I was in China, because there were such cases in the Chinese population that really documented what they saw after the doctors pronounced them clinically dead. So
Yeah.
they went through a light tunnel, and then they saw their family members who passed away. And those kind of stories were really interesting to me.
Yes.
After I went to the US, I improved my English, and I started to read more into the unexplained mysteries, especially books written by ET contactees.
All right. Okay, that's quite a good quite a good answer. Let's see, because you might have just replied, or yeah, giving me a reply to some other questions. In terms of Chinese ufology, so how many Chinese UFO cases are out there overall? And within those, like how many Chinese abduction cases that you are aware of that perhaps even not even have been translated to other languages?
There have been a lot of cases in which people saw UFOs in the sky, and also a lot of the cases in which the UFOs affected the commercial and military flights of the Chinese government or military. So those are actually well documented, but the government really doesn't give explanation on what happened. They don't say whether they can pursue the investigations. It's just the civilian groups among the Chinese people, they're interested in finding out what happened. But the government, basically, especially in the last few decades, kept silence. In the 80s, on the other hand, there was a movement in the Chinese people that they were interested in studying the supernatural abilities that people have, extrasensory abilities, or Qigong masters. So there was a movement for people to practice Qigong. And among that movement, there were kind of different civilian groups that were also interested in finding out whether there were advanced civilizations that came to visit us. But those remained non-governmental. And there are a few cases in which people claim that they were abducted or were in contact with ETs that came to visit us. Those cases were very interesting. They claim that the ETs had close encounters or had sexual relationship with the abductee. But those cases were interesting. Even though they were interesting, they really don't help us or give us any practical value or practical guidance. So I just don't research those as much as I wanted to, because I really wanted to research the cases in which that can really help us to progress, to help us to move forward as a civilization.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. So, but basically, there are abduction cases in China as well, right? So there are some Chinese cases, or there used to be, or maybe you don't know too many anymore, but there used to be.
Yes, there are also recent cases as well. People are more vocal these days, but the government really doesn't support nor discourage such storytellings.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. There are some alleged allegations that China is using AI to locate UFOs, perhaps shooting them down and reverse engineering them. I think that was from Christopher Sharp from the Liberation Times. He was reporting on this last year, if I remember.
Üdvözöljük Christopher Sharpot a The Liberation Times-tól, aki feltárta, hogyan titkolják el az UFO balesetek begyűjtését a kongresszus, az amerikai közvélemény és a világ elől. Részt veszi az Egyesült Államok kormánya nem emberi eredetű, más néven UAP-ként ismert űreszközök begyűjtésében és visszafejtésében? Az én megértésem szerint igen. És ezeket az eszközöket nem csak szárazföldön gyűjtik be, igaz? Igen. Eltitkolják ezt a kongresszus törvényhozói és az amerikai nép elől? Bizonyos mértékig igen a törvényhozók elől, az amerikai közvélemény elől pedig 100%-ban mindent eltitkolnak. Melyik ügynökség érintett leginkább ebben? A CIA. Hogyan találja meg a CIA ezeket a lezuhant UAP-ket? A UAP-ket a Nemzeti Felderítő Hivatal NRO, a Nemzeti Térinformatikai Hírszerző Ügynökség NGIA és a Nemzetbiztonsági Ügynökség NSA követi nyomon. Ezek az ügynökségek különféle adatokat szolgáltatnak, beleértve a jelhírszerzést, Signals Intelligence és a térinformatikai hírszerzést, Special Intelligence, amelyek mind hozzájárulnak az információgyűjtéshez és az objektumok követéséhez. Emellett vádak is vannak arra vonatkozóan, hogy néhány ilyen eszközt lelőttek, de erről még nem írtam teljes cikket, és további információkat kell gyűjteni ezzel a váddal kapcsolatban. Azt állítja, hogy az Egyesült Államok hadserege lelőtt UAP-ket. Állítólag. Melyek azok a további szövetségi ügynökségek, amelyek részt vesznek ezeknek az eszközöknek a begyűjtésében? Például a víz alatti begyűjtési missziók esetében a National Underwater Reconnaissance Office, Nemzeti Víz alatti Felderítő Hivatal érintett, amely különböző speciális műveleti egységekkel és az Egyesült Államok haditengerészetének kutatási hivatalával, Office of Naval Research-el dolgozik együtt. Ezek az ügynökségek koordinálják a tevékenységeket és helyreállító hajókat, valamint felderítő hajókat használnak az észlelt anyagok begyűjtésére. Különböző területek is érintettek, például földi missziók esetében az Egyesült Államok hadserege működik közre. Azonban minden középpontjában valamennyi tevékenységet koordinálva a CIA műveleti igazgatósága, a Director of Operations áll valamilyen kapacitásban. Van Kínának saját titkosított UAP programja? Igen, és erről a South China News újság is beszámolt. Van elképzelésünk arról, hogy Kína UAP programja méretében és kiterjedésében hogyan viszonyul az Egyesült Államokéhoz? Tudjuk, hogy mesterséges intelligenciát használnak az UFO-k nyomon követésére, ez nyílt forrásból származó információ. Azonban nagyobb léptékben tudnak dolgozni a visszafejtési erőfeszítések terén, mivel tekintély elvű államként sokkal szigorúbban tudják titokban tartani az ilyen tevékenységeket. Jelentős előrelépéseket értek el az idegen űrhajók visszafejtése és hasznosítása terén.
So have you heard anything about these Chinese UFO recovery teams or reverse engineering programs, or and if so, how many UFOs they might have collected so far according to your research?
Yeah, I know from what I know about the Chinese government or governments in the world, they're going to try to do this using their technologies or AI to track the UFOs down and try to reverse engineer their technologies. But if you really think about it, the really advanced ETs, they would know that we're going to be tracking them, shooting them down. They would have the technologies to counter our technologies. So the really advanced civilizations would not allow us to track them or shoot them down. So even if there are news reports of UFO crafts being shot down by the military or the governments, then those would be from the lesser advanced civilizations, the civilizations that are kind of similar to us, having maybe a little bit better technologies, but not too much better than us, because we shot them down, and they don't know how to prevent us from shooting them down. So I would say that even if there are spacecraft that they shot down and reverse engineered, so we are basically not learning from the masters. We are just learning from our peers. So I wouldn't really study too much about those cases, even though those may be useful a little bit, but I would focus more on the far more advanced civilizations.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that answer. I think is probably that's where we're gonna get to. So we can get to the book, Thiaoouba Prophecy. Is that the right way to pronounce it? Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
All right. So within that book, well, there are several topics that we're gonna go through, but what did I write here? So yeah, so you are most well known for translating my Michel Desmarquet. Is that the correct
Yes.
way?
Desmarquet.
Michel Desmarquet's book called Thiaoouba Prophecy, the Golden Planet. So can you please explain what convinced you that this is one of the most important books that all humanity should read?
You know, in the very beginning, when I found the book, I checked it out and I read it through the chapters. Until the chapter on who was Christ, I thought this book was a science fiction. But there are so many specific facts in the book that can be verified, especially in the chapter Who was Christ. Talking about Jesus, there's a tomb of Jesus in Shingo Village, Japan, that people can still visit. That's the fact that really convinced me that this book has to be real. Because if you really get into the book, you're going to know that the writer, the author, was a landscaper in Australia who didn't have a lot of education, who never traveled to Japan, who wouldn't have known that there was a tomb of Jesus in Shingo Village, Japan, because he wrote a book in 1989 and got it published in 1993, years before the age of the internet. I mean, in 1993, there was a little bit of internet in the US, but in Australia, where he was living, there was basically no internet. He couldn't have known that there was a tomb of Jesus in Japan. And still nowadays, not many people know about this. But this book gave a lot of specific details and descriptions about the tomb and where it came from, how it came from, and the fact that there's another tomb next to it, which is a tomb of the brother of Jesus, who went from Jerusalem to Japan, and also explained why in the Bible there was no record of Jesus performing miracles before the age of 30, before he began preaching, and why there's a gap of years after the teenager years of Jesus until he began preaching. So it explains a lot of the mysteries and the questions that I had about the Bible. And also the book also contained a lot of specific facts, especially about a military experiment in the 1960s by the US government, sending out hundreds of millions of needles into space. That project was talked about in the book and can be verified. Not many people know about this. So this book also contains a lot of interesting explanations about how the Great Pyramid was built and why it was built, if there were any ancient civilizations, and how many great resets we had on Earth, where we all came from, why Jewish people were unique and are unique, and also why people say that they have different reincarnations, and why we go through all these reincarnations, and what's the meaning of life, and what kind of problems and dangers we are facing in our current civilization. The number one danger is money. Number two danger is politicians. Number three danger is journalists and drugs. And number four danger is religions. So this book actually talks about many different subjects or topics that are very interesting and giving logical explanations to the readers who have certain fundamentals about some of the things that mentioned in the book.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, because you went through quite a few things that we still gonna get into, but yeah. So basically, what convinced you is that there are too many specific knowledge on several different topics that for one person to have studies who studied it, who was a landscaper, as you mentioned, right? That it would be quite difficult. Plus, on the top, that there are a few things that. There is no way that he would have had a knowledge on that topic because where he lived and the internet that you mentioned before, so probably he didn't have, unless he has read it somewhere, all these things. But there is quite a because I'm interested in all these topics, right, like ancient civilizations, near-death experiences. But to get into depth all this, it takes a lot of time, so yeah, so that makes sense. All right. So basically, there was a lot of things that convinced you that, okay, so there's something there. All right. Yes, because, sorry, just for the Hungarian viewers, because we know what we're talking about, but for the Hungarian viewers, all these things, that knowledge that he was talking about in his book that you translated to Mandarin, to Chinese, right, is... basically, he's been taught. He learned this from the people, from the, I forgot now again, the Thiaoubians. Is that the right way to say?
Yes, or Jehovah's, similar to the pronunciation Jehovah or Jehovah's.
And my name is Michel Desmarquet. Certain of you saw me, certain never seen before, and I have to thank you very, very much to be interested on what's happened to me in June 1987. During the night, I was sleeping very quietly in my little hobby farm over there in North Queensland, when suddenly I awake and I was thinking it was the morning, ready to go, fresh, like you had a good night's sleep. Then I went to the kitchen, and in the kitchen, I was surprised to see it was 12:30. I dressed up. At that moment, I have to explain to you, because people don't understand really, maybe in a book. At that moment, I became like a zombie in my own house, like if I was telepatized by something, hypnotized. Then I wrote a note to my wife, darling, I will be away for 10 days. Oh, why did I do that? It was like two Michel, one watching the other, doing that. I put the note under the telephone. I turned around, I went under the veranda, went down there, and down the stairs, and same time I call it backyard. It's not backyard, it's sort of bushy stuff behind the house because I live next to the rainforest. And I continued to walk. When suddenly under my feet, the ground became bluish, reddish, everything distorted. At the light of the star, I could see the house distorted. The philodendron, which is, somebody knows, is a beautiful plant, on a tree next to me, started to distort it. And I said, sort of waking up, what am I doing here? I'm sick, I want to go home. And at that precise moment, I've been lifted from the ground and passed on another dimension. At that part of the book, the translator said to me, because the book been written in French originally, and my English is not good enough to write directly in English, unfortunately. And translator said, Michel, you should change that part of the book, because suddenly you are in your garden, after that you are sitting on a rock somewhere else. I said, I'm very, very sorry, I prefer to explain that later, but I can't change anything in that book except the postscript, which is really what I think about it. But the rest have been forbidden to me to change one word of it. So I can't change that part, even if I don't like that part myself. So what's happened when suddenly I appear, as I say, in front of a huge human being, 10 feet high, who look at me with a smile, a transparent helmet, and say, "Oh, everything will be all right, Michel," in French, which is my own language. I say, "You must be joking, I'm dreaming, because we are in Australia, first of all, why do you speak to French to me?" And she say, I say, "We speak English here," and she says, "So do I in English." So I say, "That's it, it's a dream, I'm going to fall upon a carpet, I'm dreaming, I'm in my bed." And she said, "No, no, 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 no. You are not dreaming, we don't want you to think you are dreaming at all. We came to pick you up physically and to make you doing a trip which nobody ever done, at least on this century, on this planet." At that moment, Tao told me that, and she said, "We are going to take you for a trip," as I said before. And I said, "You must be joking. What for?" And she said, "You are going to witness what we are going to show you with your physical body and report it in a book." I say, "You must be joking, because I'm a gardener, I'm not a writer. Why don't you take a writer or a journalist?" "You had good writers," she says. "That's a good question, because Plato was a good one, but he's dead long time ago. Victor Hugo was a good one too, but he's dead also. And the journalists are making too much of sensationalism. We need you to report word for word what you are going to witness, and to put the information in a book, and we'll help you to do that." She didn't tell me at that moment why they choose me, but we'll talk about that later. Astral body, astral travel, space travel, stars, Big Bang, and so on and so on. Thousands of books have been written on that. I am sorry, but all those books are theory, which is very good, like the theory also of Darwin's theory. You have a lot of theory, plenty theory. It's all theories. But I am here not to tell you theories, not to tell you my opinion, what I think of it, what I think that we can talk philosophically after the lecture. But I am here to tell you the truth.
Can you please explain how you managed to locate Misha? Because, you know, I know, well, for the Hungarian audience, but basically the story is that the book has convinced you wanted to visit him, because obviously he had an experience. Basically, the experience is, again, for the Hungarian viewers, that he has been taken away by ETs, we can call them, much more advanced civilization, for 9 days, if I remember right? 9
Yes.
days. Okay, so anyway, so you then you located him, or how did you locate him, basically?
Yeah, I was very interested in locating him and to speak to him about what happened to him, because, as you know, in the postscript of the book, it says there are far more incredible things that he knew but couldn't write in a book,
Yeah.
because we were far from understanding them.
I
He
will ask
wasn't
about
allowed.
that.
Yeah, that's the reason I was very interested in looking for him and to talk to him, to find out what else he knew but couldn't write in a book.
Yes.
So I searched on the internet. I searched for a long time and looking for.
Sorry, that was in 2000.
That was in 2014 and 15.
2004. Okay, all right.
Yes, I did a lot of research, and there were some posts by tourists or travelers who accidentally met him in Vietnam. So I knew that he was still alive. I was really, really excited and happy about the fact, because, you know, for some of the books, when you read about it, you want to meet the author, and the author already passed away.
Yes.
So that's you cannot talk to them anymore. But this
Yeah.
book, he was still alive. I was very happy. So
Yeah.
I did a lot of research and trying to contact the travelers and tourists who met him, but they all refused to tell me where exactly he was located, because they say that he didn't want them to reveal his exact location, because he wanted to keep it confidential. So I had to do a lot of additional research. So I found there's one tourist who took a picture of his bungalow,
Mhm.
his where he lived. It's just a house, like a bungalow.
Yeah.
And I decided to take a chance. I printed that picture out, and I took it with me, and I flew to that island in Vietnam where the tourists met him. And I showed that picture of the bungalow to the local taxi driver, and then telling the driver to take me to where the picture showed. And the second try, he took me to the right location. And at that time, Michel Desmarquet was having an afternoon nap. So I waited until he woke up, and then I met him. So that's the first time that I met him.
All right. So was he happy that you see him?
No, he wasn't.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna get into all this. So in the book, basically the space aliens from advanced civilization explain the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle and a few strange disappearances. Can you elaborate on some of these, please?
So the mysterious disappearances of the ships and planes of the Bermuda Triangle, as well as the missing people in some of the national parks in the US and Canada, were actually caused by a natural phenomenon. So what happens is that, like in the space on Earth, there are naturally occurring warps that really connect our universe to a parallel universe. So people, planes, and ships who get around these entry points or portals get stuck into that parallel universe. And then the book Thiaoouba Prophecy describes what happens inside of a parallel universe in which time stops and people don't feel hunger or pain. This actually is very consistent with the research done by American
Is it
researcher David Paulides.
David Paulides, yeah.
Yes, he is a private investigator who documented a lot of the cases in which people just suddenly disappear or vanish in the national parks.
The
And
missing
in some of,
411.
yes, for the missing 411 cases.
Yeah.
And in some of the cases when the corpse were found, and it seems that the corpse were so abnormal and strange that the people walked to their bones. So until their bones came out, they seemed that they couldn't feel or didn't feel pain at all. Because normally we would suffer a lot of pains if we walk too long, and we wouldn't walk to our bones or until our bones come out. So this is very consistent. And also there are a lot of other interesting consistent facts that this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, explains about what happens once people get sucked into the parallel universe. For example, people would see like strange people who stayed in the parallel universe for centuries or thousands of years, like savages. And we also hear about Bigfoot. And I would suspect that the Bigfoot were those kind of people who were able to come in and out of the parallel universe. So I think this actually can explain a lot of different mysteries.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Off topic, but because basically you said that, not you, sorry, the book actually is that basically this is a natural phenomenon. Now I'm just thinking about this is a different, it's not necessarily the Bermuda Triangle or the some of these parks, national parks, but the flight 370 is a Malaysian flight 370. There are so many conspiracy, but not necessarily conspiracy theories. But I don't know if you've seen the videos coming up. That there's some UFOs might be making the plane disappear. What's your take on that? If you, have you done any research on that, maybe, or is it could be a part of this natural phenomena? Maybe these people
Uh,
still alive, you know? I don't know.
when I was interpreting for Richard Branson, he didn't know what happened to the MH370 flight.
Yeah.
If he didn't know, then I wouldn't think that a lot of the regular people would know. But there are technologies who can really make planes disappear, are human technologies. So I would suspect that there may be some human technology factors at play, but this really deserves a further investigation and research. But I really want to emphasize that there are entry points in our space in which the ETs and the UFOs use as entry points and exit points of Earth. For example, in this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, the ETs used the portals as a way to come to Earth so that the neighbors of the author, Michel, wouldn't be able to see them. So they used the parallel universe as a hiding place for them to station their spacecraft. And there's a UFO researcher, I forgot his name, but he observed the space, our space, and also found that there are a lot of very interesting points or locations in space where UFOs seem to come in and go out. So they seem to use this kind of specific location in space to come out, to come into our view. So this is a very interesting phenomena.
All right. Okay, thank you for the answer. Just to give a description for the Hungarian audience, I've read the book last year, but these people, space aliens or basically ETs for us, basically, right? That they kind of look like us, right? Maybe a little bit taller or much more taller, blonde hair,
Yes.
something like that, right?
Yeah, they're very Nordic looking. They have blonde hair. They're really tall, like 3 meters, like 9 or 10 feet tall, and they are perfect beings. They're very beautiful. They look like women, sexy women, and they don't age at all. When Michel went on their planet, Thiaoouba, he was amazed at seeing so many beautiful ETs that are at the same age. So they're always looking like in their 30s, young and beautiful looking, but they're also very compassionate and loving. So when Michelle was with them, he felt uh, great comfort being with them, very pleasant feelings with them. So they look like. And the book has a very detailed description on their features and how they look like.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Yes. Telepathy, anti-gravity, levitation. Can you elaborate on that? What they have been told,
Yes.
or what Michel have been told?
So when Michelle was communicating with them, some of the communications were done by voice, but most of the communications were done by telepathy.
Yeah.
So they were able to tap into Michel's mind and know what he was thinking at that time. And the book has a very detailed description. If you do some research nowadays on the internet, you're able to find that in some of the tribes. Native tribes of Brazil, they are able to communicate with each other through telepathy. And the book explains that telepathy is a skill in which we had in the past, especially for people in Africa and also in other parts of the world, but then lost because we have been too focused on material life. Anti-gravity is a technology in which they're able to use at will. They're able to neutralize gravity using a vibrational frequency. So they're able to make a heavy object become weightless without weight. And so they're able to use a lot of the technologies that are lost on Earth. And I think if you read into the book, you're going to be amazed at how far more advanced they are compared to us.
Yeah. Yes, I mean you hear that anti-gravity telepathic communication quite often. So So yes, so it's definitely something that we still need to look into or relearn it perhaps. um, Levitation. Uh, Perhaps that's might be part of the anti-gravity thing or the levitation, because I think
For levitation,
he has
yeah,
seen people levitating there, right? If I
yes.
remember.
Yes, levitation is also a skill or a kind of ability that we lost in modern times. Most people don't know how to levitate anymore. But when Michel was on their planet, he observed that they were able to levitate uh, when or using concentration, meditation concentration. So they're able to levitate themselves like a meter, 2 meters above ground. Actually, there's at least there's one well documented person in Nepal, a Nepali monk that can still levitate. If you search on YouTube, if you search Nepali monk levitation, Dan White, Danwhite, he is a magician, American magician, who went to Nepal and to visit this Nepali monk who said that he was able to levitate, and he shot a film which was shown in History Channel, and people can see that there are candles around this Nepali monk, and after chanting and meditating, this monk was able to levitate himself in front of the magician, and the magician Dan White doesn't know how he did it.
You have power of levitation. And as a magician, this is something that I'm fascinated with.
Your magic is fantastic, but we're not the same the Buddhist meditations.
Yes, I understand. I know you don't want to teach me how to do it or tell me any of your what you do, but maybe I could just witness it.
You come from very far away. You show me your scale. I don't know what happened, but I will try one time.
Okay, great.
I need you back. If you still close me, then my energy doesn't roll. Yes.
Okay. Go get this.
How is he doing that? Are you guys seeing this? Are you guys seeing this? Wow. There's no wires. I didn't see anything.
This is crazy.
So this is a skill in which a few of us still have, but not many of us have.
Interesting. Yes, because I hear about this, but I never really done, specific research on some of these topics that we're talking about. But I will definitely look into it because it's quite interesting. The original book is called Abduction to the Ninth Planet. Can you please explain the significance of the number 9, please?
Yes, number 9 is a very, very universal number to the ETs and also in the universe. So according to the ETs from Thiaoouba, there are 9 categories of planets in the universe. We are living on category 1 planet, the lowest category, and they are living on category 9 planet, the highest category. So they're just like professors guiding us or mentoring us. We are just like elementary school students learning the basics. And we also have to go through 9 different levels of evolution to become, to join the Great Spirit, which is the creator of everything, the creator of the universe. So the number 9 is a very, very important universal number, according to the ETs, and also, interestingly, to the Chinese people, Chinese culture. And if you study Taoism, anything like is the multiples of 9. So everything is multiples of 9. So this is a very interesting coincidence. I think it deserves a lot of attention. And one other interesting fact is that according to the ETs, there's a universal pattern in the universe in which 9 planets revolve around a star like the sun, and 9 suns revolve around a bigger sun, a bigger star, and then the 9 bigger stars revolve around even a bigger star until the center of the universe. And sometimes they're binary planet or star systems, but basically go through this. It fits into the 9 revolving pattern until the center of the universe. If astronomers are interested, they can follow this pattern to validate it. But so far, they probably don't know this yet.
Oh, quite interesting. All right. So yeah, so basically we are category 1. So it's not the worst, well it's the lowest category, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so they are on category 9. And are we aware of anything between the 1 and 9? Are there any other civilizations that are between 1 and 9?
Yes. Most of us, the blacks, the yellows, the Caucasians, and the ancestors of the Polynesians came from a category 1 planet, except for the ancient Hebrews. They, according to Michel, came from category 3 planet by accident. So this actually explains the uniqueness of the ancient Hebrews.
Interesting.
And this is why they were the chosen people. They were chosen by the Thiaoubans to really evolve and to guide us. Not to guide us, but to evolve. 那个我在忙，不好意思。
All right, thank you for that. So next one, again, we're gonna get into some of these, subcategories. So the book also mentioned reincarnation, healing, and astral body. What can you tell us about this, or what Michel has been told, please?
Well, for reincarnation, I did a lot of study before reading this book. I believe that there are different reincarnations for every one of us, and they're actually well researched by a lot of the scientists and medical doctors in the U.S. and elsewhere. For example, in the U.S., there are psychologists or psychiatrists like Dr. Michael Newton, Dr. Brian Weiss, and also Dr. Ian Stevenson, who studied different their patients through past life regression, and also researching children who claim that they had memories of past lives. In Chinese culture, it's also well documented that there are people who are able to remember their past lives. And also we really believe, as well as the Indian people, believe that they're in reincarnations. This book is very specific and very interesting, is that the ETs took Michel Desmarquet's astral body into his past lives, and allowing him to see who he was in different reincarnations in his past lives. So once he was a German miner, like a mining worker, and who accidentally killed his wife and many children, leaving his many children behind. And once he was a water carrier in India, a goldsmith in Japan, or a beggar in Africa, and a queen on a different planet for entire country. And so he was able to see who he was in different reincarnations. And he was told that we have different reincarnations is to the reason we do that is to learn through the different roles that we play in different lifetimes. So each reincarnation or each role we play is just like a wheel, at different positions on a wheel. What goes up has to come down. So we have to experience different roles in different lifetimes to learn different things for the enrichment of our astral body. our higher self as well. So to a certain extent, that we really don't have to be jealous of the wealthiest people on earth, because we know that in this lifetime they're very wealthy, but in the next lifetime they may have to experience what it is like being a beggar, and to continue to learn different spiritual lessons. The most important thing is to be spiritual, to follow the teachings of Christ, to be compassionate, and to love one another. So this is the spiritual lesson that Christ was trying to teach us, and this is the spiritual lessons that the ETs have been trying to help us to follow. So this is the concept of reincarnation as mentioned in this book. And we do have astral bodies in addition to our physical body. We not only have our astral bodies, we also have other bodies. In this book, it explains that once we die, our astral body leaves our physical body. And for 3 days, it remains in nature until it joins the higher self. So this is why in the Tibetan culture, a corpse of the dead is not to be touched for 3 days, because they believe that the people have not really fully been released from death. And this is why Christ or Jesus or Christ resurrected after 3 days, because the astral body would have to spend 3 days until it reunites with the higher self. And during this time, it reveals the entire lifetime of the person who just passed. So the person is able to see, experience, and hear and feel not only what he or she did in his lifetime, but also how others felt when certain things were done unto others. So he or she is able to experience everything, and to experience how others felt, the sorrows or pains or happiness or appreciation when certain things were done unto others. And then if some actions were done incorrectly or remorsefully, then there will be regrets. And then this will be the lessons to be learned in the next reincarnation. And we determine the kind of family we are going to be born into in the next lifetime, and the kind of spiritual lessons to learn in our next reincarnation. And once we chose that reincarnation, that family, then the entire memory is erased. So this is why most people don't remember their past lives, because we would have to go through the river of oblivion, forgetting everything that happened in the past, everything that we learned. So we have to really live in our lifetime without the memories of the past. But for some people, some of the memories remain because they were not successfully removed. This is why some people can remember their past lives.
Yes, because if I remember that Michel had, I think, 80 past lives before. Was it 80?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that was the only reason that he was, well, not only the only reason, but I think part of the reason that he was chosen to be taken to the ninth planet and was able to survive, because he had that much experience. Is that if I remember right?
Yes, this is one of the reasons. There are two, but this is the main reason, because he had 80 past lives and he is able to survive for 9 days on their planet. I would assume,
But
on the other hand,
he didn't know that that's what they taught him. So he didn't.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have known. So he didn't know anything about reincarnation or anything like that before.
Yes.
Okay.
And there are two other reasons. One is that he's a man of action. He doesn't really want to wait. So his main job is to document everything he saw, he witnessed, and experienced into a book. And he doesn't wait, and he wrote his book immediately. And the second reason is that he was landscaper, and he doesn't have any preconceived notions or presuppositions. If they chose like a journalist or ufologist or physicist, then they would have added their own opinions or
Yeah.
thoughts into this book.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. Let's see what else we have here, because you did touch on quite a few things. So the story of Jesus, shape-shifting Jesus, and the second coming of Jesus Christ. There is something about that as well. Would you like to share with us, please?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting topic. I'll try my best to explain. When when I was reading the Bible, I was really amazed at the stories, but I really didn't believe anything written in the Bible because I thought it's just too fantastical and too good to be true. How can anyone just like Jesus or Christ perform miracles? And the miracles were just like too good to be true. And then I went to the church, like a Christian churches in Los Angeles, not to really learn about the Bible, but to socialize, to better my business network, to know more people, to improve my economic or financial life through the connections in the church.
Yeah.
I was pretty shocked at the fact that even though the Bible says that we need to love one another, there were a lot of conflicts in the church, and the pastors were preaching about the fear of God and also hatred to the people who didn't believe in the Bible or Christians or Christianity. That really shocked me, and they really wanted people to donate money to the church. So that's something that I was really puzzled, because I thought believing in Christianity should be like Jesus as documented in the Bible, but my own personal experience was the opposite. So I really didn't believe in the church or the Bible at all until I read this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy. Because while I was reading the Bible, I was thinking like, even though Jesus or Christ was so spiritual and so good, when he began preaching, but when he saw his mother for the first time after he began preaching, he didn't call his mother mother. He called his mother woman. That's, to a Chinese person, it's really impolite. We wouldn't just call like our own mother woman in front of all the people at that time. It's really shocked me quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, 100%. We wouldn't.
It seems to me that Jesus was like a different person, like not recognizing his own family at all. I was puzzled, like why that's the case. And also there are some people who say that Jesus went to India, and so that's always in my mind that the Bible has some kind of issues, not fully correct in documenting the what really happened in history. So this book really connects all the dots. It says that the Jesus born out of Virgin Mary was the one who was born from the embryo implanted by the ETs.
That makes sense. That just makes
yes.
But yeah.
It also mentioned about the star of Bethlehem, the star of Bethlehem in the sky. And it says that if nowadays people see the star of Bethlehem, people would cry out, it's a UFO. And interestingly enough, I'm Chinese, so I study a lot of the astronomical records of China. There's a record in the astronomical documents or history of China that says that in the sky, right around the time that Jesus was born, there was a star, like very bright star, that remained in the sky for 90 days or so, 60 to 90 days or so. So that's a consistent fact observed by the astronomers in China that really indicate Jesus wasn't born in December, but born in the springtime, in 5 BC, to be more exact. So that's the Jesus born out of Virgin Mary. And then Jesus was really spiritual, having a very highly spiritual conversation with the teachers of the temple. And then he went to India, traveled through China, and then died in Japan. So this is why in Japan, there's a tomb of Jesus in Shingo village. But Christ, on the other hand, is a different entity. In order to really bring the Hebrews out of the evil rules of the Romans, they had to send in someone who could perform miracles. But the Jesus born out of Virgin Mary, because the way he was born, because the astral body had to go into the embryo, it also had to pass through the river of oblivion, forgetting the knowledge to perform miracles. So that Jesus couldn't perform miracles. The young Jesus, as documented in the Bible, couldn't perform miracles. But Christ could, because he's a different entity. He is an entity that's actually made by the ETs. I mean, at least the physical body was made by the ETs to resemble the appearance of Jesus who went to Japan. And then they had one of their own ETs to come into the physical body made by them, so that it doesn't really have to pass through the river of oblivion, so that it can remember the ways to perform miracles. So this is why Christ was able to perform miracles. His main mission is to teach about, or to preach about love and spirituality and reincarnation. And this is why Christ resurrected after being crucified, just to show people that there's life after death. And actually, there's an anecdotal story in the Ethiopian Bible, the Ethiopian version of the Bible, which says that Pilate was actually trying to use his own son to replace Christ on the cross, to replace. I mean, they were able to do that because he could just put his own son on the cross so that Christ wouldn't have to go through this kind of experience. And then Christ showed, this is the anecdotal story in the Ethiopian Bible. Christ really showed his abilities and performed miracles and shapeshifted. Telling him that if he really wanted to, he could just not be put on the cross, but he had to go through this experience just to for people on earth to remember what he came here for. And also in other parts of the Bible, there are other descriptions about the shape-shifting abilities of Christ. People can do some research on that.
All right, thank you for that. About Virgin Mary, the Virgin of Fatima, is there anything in the book with those?
Yeah. So the Virgin of Fatima, as explained in the book, is actually a hallucination or is an illusion that can be performed by people who had the knowledge or ability to impose certain images or kind of this kind of similar experience onto the mass, because it would be like a chain reaction, and people at that location would experience the same kind of experience as experienced by the Virgin of Fatima, like the people who saw Virgin of Fatima. So this is explained in the book. This actually makes me wonder if certain groups of the military already have this kind of technology to impose this kind of phenomenon on certain people, so that certain people would claim that they had certain experiences of being abducted or being enslaved on a different planet, a secret space program. So I think there are different technologies that we are not aware of. We have to do further investigations and research to find out more. But this is an ability that the ETs have to really superimpose this kind of experience onto a human being. This would mean that our military could have similar technologies or abilities to do the same.
But it's kind of like a 3D reality thing that they just project, right? The ETs.
Yes.
So that's
It
how
would be, yeah.
Yeah, because
It
there
would
were
be
so many, you know, Virgin Mary, or there was another one in, I think, in France, the Lords. There were so many of these, you know, when the lady appears. Okay.
I would use the word holographic simulation.
Yes.
Yes.
That sounds like a good description. All right. Let's see. So next one. So some of these statues that we have on Earth. So for example, on Easter Island, the Easter Island statues and the pyramids. The purposes of these. Perhaps we can talk about the throat of Egypt and the pharaoh of Akhenaten, if I'm saying it right.
Yes. Yes, the pyramid really puzzles me quite a bit because we were taught that it was a tomb built a few thousand years ago.
Yeah.
I just didn't believe it because I think it would be impossible just to build it by the slaves of Egypt.
Yeah.
According to this book, the Great Pyramid of Egypt was actually built by a very wise and learned person from Atlantis, an ancient civilization that was lost about 12,000 years ago. He used anti-gravitational technologies and also supersonic vibratory systems to cut the huge stones in a very precise manner, so that he was able to put the stones and align them perfectly, so that the Great Pyramid would be used as a tool to capture cosmic and terrestrial energies. The ancient pharaohs used the Great Pyramid as a tool to communicate with people on different planets and also to make rain. And recently we discovered that below the Great Pyramid of Egypt, there were also subterranean structures. So this actually could explain how Thoth built the Great Pyramid and used it as a tool to capture the energies in the universe and also of Earth. And I think this is a more logical and reasonable explanation. And also the statues on Easter Islands are more.
Sorry, just so back to the pyramids. So we're talking about, because there are many pyramids around the world, but basically we're talking about here the Egyptian, the Giza plateau specifically, right? Or we're talking about like other ones as well, like the one in Mexico, for example, or it's just for the Egyptian ones.
Just the Great Pyramid of Egypt.
Okay.
Because that's the only pyramid actually that is the most advanced one that remains on Earth.
Yeah.
The other pyramids, like the pyramids in Mexico or in China, they're not as advanced because people gradually lost the knowledge and the technologies to build a pyramid as great as a Great Pyramid of Egypt. So this is why you see that the more ancient ones were the more advanced ones. The more recent ones are the ones that are not as advanced pyramids.
I know. Nowadays they build even houses, you know, flats. After 10 years or 20 years, there's just so many problems with them. All right. So if you can just describe, because I know there was like a long conversation to Michel, but if we can describe in a few words of for example, the Giza pyramids, the Giza plateau, it's a kind of communication tower or between a communication tower and a machine, but it's definitely not a tomb. but how could we describe in the best way?
It would be the best description would be as a tool for people to use to communicate with other planets, and also to make rain. They're also able to use it to explore parallel universe. So this is the function and the purpose of building the Great Pyramid, because people at that time, they were ready, they're materially and spiritually advanced. I mean, the ancient civilization in Egypt. So this is why Thoth decided to build a Great Pyramid to use it for that purposes, for those purposes. And I think people should do additional research on that point, because it's definitely not a tomb.
Yeah, no, I never believed it is. Well, if you go through like and some of the bits as well that we just talked about or you just mentioned, you know, the way that they have cut them. I've been to Egypt like in 12 different cities, and there is nowhere, not a word of you know, there is no description of how they build the pyramids. Also, then they never found, you know, the part of the stones that they cut, you know, that they're not part of the pyramid, but you know, that's never been used. And also those stones, what I understood is actually from that it's in Giza, that is coming from Aswan, which is like 800 kilometers away. I think that's the only place what I understood that it's can be located, the similar structure of the actual stone, the limestone. All right, sorry, just carry on, because the next one was going to be the Easter Islands, I think.
Yes. So the statues on Easter Island, the moas, were actually built using the same or similar technologies, anti-gravitational technology and supersonic vibratory systems. If people doubt about anti-gravitational technologies, they can learn about such technologies by reading the books written by travelers, the European travelers to Tibet. So when the European travelers went to Tibet, they observed the Tibetan monks using a musical instrument like a horn and they center around like a huge stone, and they play the musical instrument, and then after a few minutes, the stone was lifted to the mid of the air, and then to be placed at another location. So this is well documented by the European travelers in Tibet. So there are other like ways to neutralize gravity, or maybe just to move very heavy objects into the sky or onto different locations. So there are technologies like this that we don't know about. Yeah.
But sorry, so what was the purpose of the Easter Islands, the statues?
Yeah, the Easter Island was actually a part of the remaining
Atlantis?
Moa. No, not Atlantis, but Lemuria is the remaining part of a continent of Lemuria. So there existed a very advanced civilization about 250,000 years ago on that continent, Lemuria. Lemuria was a continent that existed in the Pacific Ocean. So the current Hawaii Islands, the Easter Island, and also some of the islands in the Pacific Ocean were the remnants of the continent of Lemuria. So because of a natural disaster like an earthquake, the entire continent, almost the entire continent, sunk into the ocean almost overnight, about 14,500 years ago. And Michel Desmarquet actually went into the Akashic record, or what they would call the psychosphere, and witnessed what happened on that day, how the entire continent sunk into the ocean, and how the advanced civilization existed before this natural disaster. So before this natural disaster, they had a very spiritual civilization in which money didn't exist. So people were highly evolved spiritually. They didn't take advantage of each other. They just took whatever they needed from the supermarket or from the market. No one took advantage of each other, and the political structure is well structured in a way that people elected the politician that really didn't come into the position for money, but for the wellness of the people. And it actually described how those leaders were elected, going through an election system. But there were no different parties in the country. Not like in the US, there's Republicans or Democrats. There's just one party, one organization. But people who were the leaders really worked for the people, for the wellness of the people. It actually criticized, I mean, the book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, criticizes dictatorship or authoritarian regime, but also the multi-party system that exists in a lot of the Western countries like the UK and the US. Because it says that if you have the Republicans in power, then it has to cater the demands of the Democrats in order to pass a law or something like it's not efficient. So this is something that the book seems to me is very interesting. Not only it criticized the dictatorship government, but also the multi-party form of government.
Yeah. All right. If I remember right, that he has been shown not just the future, but the past as well by the ETs. And so Michel saw the dinosaurs, they're all extinct, if I remember right, because there was a meteorite or...
Well, in the book, it really doesn't talk about how dinosaurs became extinct, but it talked about the animals that become distinct. That were, some of them look like strange animals or dinosaurs, and talk about like there's a dino bird in Australia that were extinct, that were actually eaten by the people in the past. Dinosaurs exist on Earth, but when dinosaurs were thriving on Earth, there was no human beings at all at that time. The humans came to Earth about 1.35 million years ago, well after the dinosaurs became extinct. And actually, we all came from different planets.
Okay, got it.
He was shown a lot of different interesting things that happened in the past. When he went into the psychosphere, the Akashic record of the leader of Lemuria inside of the pyramid, he actually saw the carvings on the walls of different animals and fruits, and also on the planet Thiaoouba, when he visited the planet Thiaoouba, he also saw like a horsewoman and also different animals that really surprised him. Like the horsewoman had a woman face, but horse body. And also they kind of fly and jump very high, and they speak a language that sounded like human language. So if people are interested, they can read more about the book. It's quite interesting.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Aliens on the moon and life on Mars. That's the good one. I've got some other questions, like people asked if you can get into these specifics.
Yes, it explains why some people say there are ET bases on the far side of the moon, on the back side of the moon. So what happens, according to this book, is that back about 250,000 years ago, when the ancestors of Polynesians wanted to migrate to Earth because of the overpopulation issue on their planet, they encountered resistance of the Chinese people on the continent of Lemuria, on the northwestern corner of that continent. So the Chinese people were really suspicious of the foreigners. I know that because I'm Chinese. I can say this because they're really, really kind of uncomfortable about anything foreign. And so they had a war. So the ancestors of the Lemurians, the ancestors of the Polynesians, they didn't really want to fight against the Chinese because they were highly spiritual. They wanted to live in peace. So they thought the better way would be just to build ET base, their base, on the far side of the moon, so that they can transfer their people to Earth step by step. So to not to have the resistance from the Chinese people. So this is why they built their bases on the far side of the moon.
2, 1, 0. 60 seconds.
I saw this illumination that was moving with respect to the stars. We were smart enough to not say, Houston, there's a light out there that's following us. So technically, it becomes an unidentified flying object.
While Neil and Buzz were on the lunar surface, Neil switched to the medical channel and spoke directly with the chief medical officer, saying, they're here, they're parked on the side of the crater, they're watching us.
As I walked in, there were people from other countries, a lot of foreign people from other countries in civilian clothes, with interpreters with them, with security badges hanging around their neck. And the first thing I thought to myself, if this is NASA, what are all these foreigners doing here? What are all these people from other countries speaking other language? Didn't make any sense to me. And I was really quite impressed with that. It just didn't grok. I was, what are all of these people doing here? And they were very quiet, very reserved, and there was a very peculiar pall hanging over them. They had a very concerned demeanor. Okay, so they took me into this laboratory. I took a look at the equipment. There was an airman second class in there. I was an airman second class as well. He turned the equipment on and put it through its paces. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. I saw what was going on with it. I said, I need to do some troubleshooting on it. It had little printed circuit boards in it with discrete components at that time. It was before we had integrated circuits. And I said to him, we'll have to take this thing out of the lab if we're going to work on it. We can't work on it in here in the darkroom environment. So he called someone to get some people to come in and move it. It was about the size of a small apartment refrigerator. It wasn't something you could easily move. So everyone left the facility, left the darkroom, except this airman second class and myself. And we're in, waiting for someone to come to remove this piece of equipment. So while I'm in there, I said to him, and I'm really fascinated with this process, how did they get the images from the lunar orbiter to the laboratory here? And he went through the whole process, describing how the various radio telescopes around the world were linked, and they telemetered the data into Langley Field. And at the time, I didn't know what the real purpose of this darkroom and this operation in this facility was. I thought this was where they were bringing the data in and then releasing the images to the public. I had no idea that there were other issues involved in this facility. So he starts telling me all of this information, and I knew that what we were doing was classified anyway, and that he could only share a certain level of what he was doing with me because of the compartmentalized nature of our jobs. At any rate, he told me how everything worked. He showed me the equipment where the digital information came in, where it was converted to photographic images. They were doing 35 millimeter strips of film at that time, which were then assembled into 18.5 by 11 inch mosaics, they were called. There was a digital signature and a grayscale on every 35 millimeter strip. And those strips were from successive passes around the moon, and they would take and build up a photograph. They would scan one section of the moon, then another and another, and then they would get a larger image. So this mosaic then would be put in that contact printer, and that was then a print that was issued to whomever, the press, the scientist, whatever, wherever was intended to go. So he was showing me how all this worked, and we walked over to one side of the lab, and he said, by the way, we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon. And I said, whose? What do you mean, whose? He said, yes, we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon. And at that point, I became frightened, and I was a little terrified, thinking to myself that if anybody walks in the room now, I know we're in jeopardy, we're in trouble, because he should be giving me this information. I was fascinated by it, but I also knew that he was overstepping a boundary that he shouldn't be stepping over. And then he pulled out one of these mosaics and showed this base, which had geometric shapes. There were towers, there were spherical buildings, there were very tall towers, and things that looked somewhat like radar dishes, but they were large structures. So I didn't say any more to him, because I was concerned again that somebody was going to come in at any moment, would catch us having this conversation, and we would be in real trouble. I realized that he was telling me this information because he didn't have anybody else to talk to. Now, probably in that laboratory, he was probably one of the few enlisted people, and he was a worker bee. And he had a high-level security clearance, obviously, but he couldn't share that information with anybody else. And in those days, we didn't. When you had your security clearance, you took it seriously. It isn't like today where people don't take these things seriously. We had a different set of morals and ethics and values. That's the way we were raised, and we stayed bound by those agreements. So it was rare that someone would do something like this, but this fellow and I were the same rank. I think he was very distressed. He had the same pallor and demeanor as the scientists outside the room. They were just as concerned as he was, and he needed to discuss it with somebody. So that was the end of it right there. I didn't take it any further than that. I just filed it away. But the interesting thing, every day that I went home, I would think to myself, I can't wait to hear about this on the news, And, so I'd turn on the TV and I'd look at the news to see if they're going to announce we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon, being really naive, And of course, here it is 30-some years later, and we still haven't heard about it.
And this is why when the American astronauts landed on the moon, and they did land on the moon, there was a kind of communication issue between Houston and the spacecraft and the astronauts.
Yep.
And some people say they didn't go to the moon. Well, they did, but the footages shown to the public, I suspect that this is my theory or hypothesis, they're actually made in Hollywood because they had to replace the actual footage with the footage made by Hollywood in order to hide the fact that the astronaut saw ETs on the moon.
A little bit closer. Okay, here we go, a big one. Off the ground, one more. There we go. Good.
Because the ETs were warning the astronauts not to come back again, not to come back to the moon again.
2 times, yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that even from remote viewers, like that the people, they try to remote view the moon and again, and they said, you're not welcome here or something. And so, but yeah, in terms of the astronaut, I don't want to say the wrong names, but I think it was one of the Cooper something. So I forgot now which astronaut that he even talked about this to Stephen Greer apparently. But I've seen footage of before the moon, and they coming back, and they were like super happy. Yeah, we're going up there. Yeah, this and that. But when they came back, they were like really shocked. And so,
one of the next big moments in UFO history was the Apollo 11 moon landing. Tom says that the conspiracy theory that the moon landing was fake was created as a disinformation campaign by the intelligence agencies to cover up what really happened. If people are arguing about whether or not the moon landing was real, They are now asking what was found on the moon. Tom claims that during the first moon landing, UFOs were posted on a crater watching the Apollo crew. Stephen Greer claims that Neil Armstrong confirmed this to him as well, but refused to talk about it publicly out of fear that his family would be killed. Compare the body language and demeanor of the Apollo crew in the pre-flight and post-flight press conference.
Torian of the Swedish Broadcasting. In the lighter way here, you're now taking the trip of all trips of mankind. Can I ask each one of you, which place would you like to go to for a vacation when you come back to Earth?
Well, I think that the situation being what it is now, the place I would most like to go immediately is the Lunar Receiving Laboratory. If I'm able to go there, we will have succeeded.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the Apollo 11 crew, astronauts Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, Edwin Aldrin. Neil?
It was our pleasure to have participated in one great adventure. It's an adventure that took place not just in the month of July, but rather one that took place in the last decade. We all here and the people listening in today had the opportunity to share that adventure over its developing and unfolding in the past months and years. It's our privilege today to share with you some of the details of that final month of July that was certainly the highlight for the three of us of that decade.
So yeah, it makes sense. And another thing that it's all been like stopped for a long time. By the way, China has been to the far side of the moon recently, right?
Yes.
Do you know anything about that, or they keep everything in secret?
Chang'e 4 has gone where no spacecraft has gone before, the far side of the moon, the side hidden from Earth. Images released on Chinese state television show the robotic lander descending towards the 1,500-mile wide von Karman crater near the lunar South Pole. And it sent back the first picture of its new home. It's a technological leap for the Chinese. Direct communication to the far side is impossible because signals would be blocked by the bulk of the moon. So they had to place a satellite in a particular orbit to relay instructions and send back the data. Now starts the science. The Lunar Explorer touched down on a side of the moon we never see because it rotates at the same speed that it orbits the Earth. Chang'e 4 and its robotic rover is in the largest crater on the moon's surface, a 9-mile deep scar from an ancient impact that punched through the lunar crust. Analysing normal inaccessible rocks for unusual minerals will be a priority.
I was really kind of surprised that the Chinese didn't really release the photos of the far side of the moon immediately after they had the photos. I think there's something going on there because basically the Chinese people are really proud people. If they accomplish something great, they would tell the world immediately. They would release a photo immediately without any delay. But there was a really long delay, so I don't know what really happened. But really, the author Michel Desmarquet had an explanation on why we are not welcome on the moon.
Yeah.
He says in one of his lectures, like, if you see two groups of gorillas or monkeys fighting against each other in a zoo, would you really want to invite them to your beautiful mansion and make a mess? You wouldn't. So similarly, we are just like the gorillas or monkeys in the zoo fighting amongst ourselves, having wars like the US and Soviet Union or US and other countries. And so we are not ready spiritually.
Yeah.
If we explore the solar system or the universe, we would pollute them and to cause a lot of negative effect on other civilizations. So until we are ready spiritually and to make a peaceful understanding and living amongst ourselves, we wouldn't be welcomed to explore other planets that have civilizations. So this is the explanation given by Michel Desmarquet.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about Germany. I don't know. Again, it's a very controversial topic, but was the atomic bomb developed? The development delayed due to the intervention of the Thiaoubians. Is it possible?
Yeah, I think it's possible because I mean, in the book it talks about during World War II, the Thiaoubians sided with the American government at that time because the American government was more sincere in ensuring the liberties of the people. So they prevented Germany from deploying or successfully making the atomic bomb. Because if you really study history of World War II, you're going to know that Germany was really far more advanced or ahead of the US in developing and researching the atomic bomb.
Yeah, they have a
But
Heisenberg. I
yes,
think Oppenheimer was learning from Heisenberg.
yes,
And even Teller, I think.
yes. And Dr. Heisenberg, for some strange reason, made a very stupid mistake that his report was read by Hitler, making Hitler believe that Germany didn't have enough resources to make the bomb. So that's why Hitler gave up the plan, and the US was able to make. Yeah, if you research about it, you're gonna find evidence on that.
What I heard is from the Christopher Nolan movie, that is probably because Oppenheimer was speculating that Heisenberg was, I think, was Jewish, if I remember right. And Hitler didn't like Jewish, so he was like, probably he's not gonna let him. But yeah, it was in a movie, so I didn't do any research. But what you say makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and there is a calculation mistake made by Heisenberg.
I will look into that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because actually I'm working on a new like a documentary. This is gonna be probably by end of year. I don't know. It's still months ahead. But yeah, it's a lot of Hungarian scientists. They were involved in like UFO recovery and reverse engineering, like Teller, Szilard, and then von Neumann. There's so many evidence around there, but they're all, the same people, like Oppenheimer, Sarbacher, Heisenberg. So I still need to do a lot of research. But yes, thank you. Okay. So gray aliens, right? So I think this is something that is not in the book. So the gray aliens have implanted about 150 people worldwide, and people from Thiaoouba watch this actively, so they are aware of that, and they say that it's not a problem, so there is no danger. Can you explain the situation? Why, how, and since when the gray aliens have been implanting people? Because I believe that Michel told you this, so it's not in the book. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, he gave a public lecture in 1995 in Atlanta and disclosed this fact to his audience, saying that the grays also come from Category 1 planet, just like Earth, just like us. So they are not that more spiritually advanced, and they're a dying race, a dying species. They put the implants on the 150 people or so, just to want to observe how we respond to the same situation that they were experiencing, which is the increasingly decreased immune system. We our immune system has been decreasing since 1948. And so they want to see how we respond to the same situation. And so I would say that to the people who study the Roswell crash and also the ET contact with the US military government, I would say that one of the species the US government has been in contact with is the Greys. And if they try to reverse engineer the technologies of the Greys, they're learning from our peers, the category 1 ET species. So I personally believe that we should learn from the masters. We should learn from the best. We should not learn from our peers like the Greys.
Yeah.
We should learn from the Thiaoubas. So this is some suggestion for the people to take note. And also this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, is translated into the Hungarian language, and
Yes.
people can read about it.
Yes. Like he told me. I didn't know because I was reading it in English. But yeah, I will definitely recommend it, and the link that you sent me already. Okay, so why are unconditional love and spiritual growth for all human beings are the most important?
Because our physical body is just a tool for us to use. It's just like a carrier of our spiritual body or astral body. We give up our physical body when we pass, when we die. But our spiritual lesson, what we do in our lifetime, the memories remain forever. So the purpose of living here on earth is to really respond to the challenges and to learn the spiritual lessons so that we can really progress to the higher level. For example, to a category 2 or 3 level planet, and then to a category 5 or 6 or 9 planet, and then join the great ether, the great spirit, the great spirit. So this is the purpose of living here. It's just to accumulate spiritual lessons so that we can purify our mind, our spirit, so that we can join and rejoin the great spirit, which is the where the universe started from.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you for that. Yeah, because I think that's the point of the book, right? Like that's the most important thing that people should take away from this, although there is so many information in that. You were telling me that you've been working with like the Hungarian software engineer trying to develop the Aura camera, because
Yes.
the book is also talking about this the human energy fields or aura. Can you please tell us more on that, please?
Yes, this book speaks about the human energy fields or auras at length, and also the effects of colors, saying that if we utilize colors, different colors in our life, we can improve our health and also our mind better than other methods.
Mhm.
So I did some research, and indeed colors have certain effects to us or on us. For example, the color blue has antibacterial, antiviral effects, as documented by a research paper published by Harvard Medical School. And also the color pink can reduce our muscle strength by 30% or so. And actually, an American football coach called Hayden, Mr. Hayden, he knew about this, and he painted the locker rooms of the visiting teams into pink color so that they would lose their muscle strength. And he never lost a home game. So this is a very unique way of utilizing such knowledge.
Interesting.
And yes, a better way of using color is to paint our rooms into the colors of our auras or human energy fields or the chakras as well. So I was looking for people who can see the colors of auras or the energy fields. And there are some people who can do that, such as a former NASA scientist called Barbara Brennan in the U.S. She used to live in New York, and she passed. And there's a person in Australia called Judith Collins. Judith Collins in Sydney, Australia. She can see the colors of auras, and she read my aura. So I was looking to find a way to develop a camera that can capture the colors of auras. There are cameras on the market, but they're not really accurate. I'm actually looking for a better one that doesn't need a person to put their hand or fingers on the sensor. There are ways to do that, because people who can see colors of auras can see the colors from black and white photos. So I was looking for a way to reverse engineer what they see based on the gradients of the black and white photos. And there's a Hungarian software engineer who found a way to really analyze the pixels, the gradients of the pixels of the colors. But I need more data from the aura readers in order to use artificial intelligence to really make the colors come out from the black and white photos. So what I need is that if any of your audience has any information or knowledge or ways to see the colors of auras, please contact me, and maybe we can make some joint efforts to develop this aura camera, because I know that Hungarian people are great scientists and engineers as well. So we can work together on this.
All right. Yeah, quite interesting. Yes, I was just talking about this with my friend, that how does it work actually, but yeah, so it's not being completed yet, basically. So it's not yet. Yeah, so we got several other ET races in our Milky Way galaxy. I think we talked about that. We talked about religions, politics, ancient civilization. Yeah, so yeah, basically there are many more things in the book. But is there anything that Michel told you that isn't in the book and we haven't covered yet, please, or anything that you can share with us?
There's one information in which he told me about. He said that according to what Tao or the ET told him, there are 12 families on Earth running everything, and it's not the 12 families that people normally talk about. And I'm actually trying to find out who they are and how they do certain things. And this is very interesting, because if people do additional research on people who were involved in secret societies, they're able to find very shocking information on the families that ran everything behind the scenes. And it seems that the Bank of International Settlement is one of the organizations that they use to control the global financial system. This is very interesting. And also some of the things I want to explore a little more is really about certain religious organizations control everything, because religion is actually a curse on earth. The Bible had a lot of truth in it, but the church modified or left something out from the Bible intentionally. For example, the concept of reincarnation is not in the Bible anymore, for their own purposes. So I think it's true that religion is a curse on earth, and people need to be spiritual and not be religious, because we can actually communicate to the Creator directly without going through intermediary agency like a religion or a religious organization, because we can really just pray or meditate to communicate to the Creator through a higher self. We should not follow what the pastor or the priest says, or the media or the government.
Yeah.
We should follow our own heart, because the kingdom of God is within you, says in the Bible. So this is one of the key points in the book, and emphasized by Michel Desmarquet. And there are other things that Michel told me that I cannot reveal, but I wrote an article revealing as many hints as possible. And the title of the article is The Second Coming of Jesus Christ. So you can get a hint of what he told me is about. And I can send you the link. You can read about it and tell
Yes,
me what you
please.
think about it. Yes.
Okay. Yes, please. Yeah, let me just have a look if we have any more questions. I've got, yes, so there are a few more. So I've got 3 more final questions, but there were some, like, I don't know if you're going to have time for the viewers, maybe just a short answer if you can give them. So, are there any UFO disclosure plans in China that you are aware of? Actually, I'm just going to go with the next question here as well, because probably you're aware that, there's a Chinese book that became very popular recently called Free Body Problem. Some people say that this might be like a Chinese way to initiate UFO disclosure, because the government has been promoting this book. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what I heard. What's your take on that according to your research, or have you heard anything about this, please? If you can share with us.
Well, the three-body problem is science fiction,
Yeah.
and I know the author is really not really supported by the Chinese government.
No?
It won the Hugo Award, and it got really popular over the years, and because of the Netflix film is really very popular in the Western world nowadays, and it's not something that supported by the government for the disclosure project.
So it's just because I heard it from the US, some podcasters, but again, I don't know where they read it from. But yeah, I don't want to say who from, because I don't remember. But that's what I just hear it, and then the same thing, like somebody says it, and then someone else gonna say that the same thing, like he heard it somewhere else, but probably they're just repeating each other. But I heard it like from 2 or 3 different places. But okay, thank you for the answer. So basically, this is not really supported by the government. This is just the science fiction.
Yeah, like one thing about the Chinese government is that whichever the government supports, it won't get very popular. It won't get very far. But really, like the imagination of the people, the science fiction writers, if it's not supported by the government, it's going to go far. This is something about the Chinese government that you should be aware of.
All right, thank you. Do we still have a few more minutes, please?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, there is like 5 questions here. So yeah, so you don't have to expand too much on that. Some of the things I'm not even aware, so I don't know if they are stupid questions or not, because I didn't have time to do any research on that. So someone was asking here, Dropa stones apparently found in China. Do you know anything about these?
The Dropa stones?
Dropa stones. No idea. I don't know either.
I don't know.
So probably, yeah, because I didn't look into it, but I was like, okay, yeah, probably, because I think it's something apparently found in there. I don't even know how they look like or what we're talking about. Now, another one that is probably a more better question here. Chinese pyramids, which are allegedly forbidden research topic there. Is it true?
There are pyramids in China, but those are primitive pyramids compared to the Great Pyramid of Egypt. The civilization of Lemuria went to South Asia, like in India, and also Papua New Guinea, and also in Latin America, like the Mayans and also the Aztecs. But they didn't really go into China, because China had a civilization on its own, even though not as advanced as the Lemurian civilization. So the pyramid in China is not as advanced as the ones in Egypt.
But are there any research on that, or is it like forbidden, or?
I don't know if they're forbidden, but I don't think people should spend too much time researching the pyramids.
But
in
it's
China.
not much to research on that, basically.
Right.
Okay, thank you. There was another question. Why is that characteristic fog present during every Bermuda Triangle incident?
It's a very good question. So when Michel Desmarquet was taken onto their spacecraft, so they actually utilized the portal of the parallel universe.
Okay.
So there's a fog, like something like the environment became fuzzy. So it's in the book, a very detailed description of how that happened. So it's a sign of going into the portal of a parallel universe. It's probably because of the specific electromagnetic force or something like that caused this like foggy environment or foggy view. So a lot of people who really went into the parallel universe describe that they went into like a fog. So that's a very good sign to go back to where you originally come from. You don't want to go into the portal or into the parallel universe and not come back. So I think this is a very good question. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't remember this. So thank you for that. Do you know any theory suggesting that the pyramids were intended to alter the Earth's rotation period?
No. Actually, the Great Pyramid of Egypt is not aligned correctly anymore because of the shifting of the axis or of Earth over time. It's not meant to change that. It's meant to use as a tool. This is what I truly believe.
Thank you. Is it true that, but I think we just talked about that, the dinosaurs. So basically, the question would be that did the humans and dinosaurs together coexisted, but we discussed that they didn't, right?
Right.
So next one. There's another good question, but I think we already talked about, has there ever been like a Roswell style incident in China? If so, was there any body found? What type of aliens are known? But I think we already discussed that as well, right? Or do you know anything, any rumors? There was like this huge incident, anything?
Well, if there were, then the Chinese military government wouldn't disclose it to anyone. So the Chinese government is very good at keeping everything secret. So if they don't want everyone to know, then no one would know about it.
Yeah.
It's only the civilian organizations, they would do their own research. But the Chinese government is really, really secretive about their own technologies and things like that. And there will be very serious consequences if anyone tries to disclose it. So if there were, I wouldn't know about it. And I don't think there are. And it's just also the Chinese government follows, or the military follows the US lead. So the disclosure would have to come from the US government first.
By the way, as it is just my own question, I think there was after that we have one more, because you were telling me about the civil organizations.
Yes.
Can you list a few that you're aware of, or are there websites that people can visit? Because I think there is, because when I've been to China last year, except Hong Kong, Google, everything was working, but I think my Gmail didn't work, YouTube didn't work, Facebook didn't work. Are you using VPN right now, or?
No, I'm not using VPN, but
because you have the American phone with you, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay,
yes.
yeah, because I had the Hungarian one. That's the only one that had good internet. But yeah, anyway, so are there any places or any the names of these civil organizations?
Yes, they were active in the 1990s and also the early 2000s. but they became inactive, and a lot of them were dissolved, especially in the last 10 or 15 years or so, because the government has tightened the control of the media. It doesn't really support the civilian or private organizations like this anymore. So people just form groups on WeChat and to discuss what happens in the US and some of the UFO or ET abduction experiences of the Chinese people in China. So
it's all on WeChat.
They don't know websites anymore. So they used to have websites, but not anymore.
Okay, so it's all on WeChat, and probably everything is in Chinese, or do they have like English WeChat groups as well, or it's all in Chinese?
All in Chinese. And I would suggest people to pay more attention to the book Thiaoouba Prophecy because it has practical value to us, to our civilization, to each one of us individually and also as a collective. The incidents in China, I read about those. Those are interesting stories. They're probably true, but they don't really add any practical value to us. They don't really benefit us individually or as a collective.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and it makes sense that you're saying it, that, we should learn something from it, not just talk about, there was a crush here or there, but what did we learn from a higher civilization? That's why I wanted to talk to you as well, because you are so basically you translated this book to Mandarin, right?
Yes.
To German, or it wasn't you?
The book was translated into German language by other translators, but I did translate a different book from German into English that talks about secret societies.
Okay. Which is the
334 per thousand lies?
Yes, because something lies. Yeah, I remember you had another book. Okay, all right. I will recommend both of those books as well. What other languages did you translate it to? So it's just to Chinese, to Mandarin, right?
But also to Korean, Japanese, Spanish, French, Arabic, Russian, Hungarian, and a few other languages that
So you translated to all these languages?
The other translators did. I helped to facilitate the translation of some of the languages.
Gotcha. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't know. Like you told me when I reached out to you that it's in Hungarian as well. I was like, really? I didn't know. Sorry about that, but I will recommend that definitely, because when I recommend someone's international UFO researchers' work, they always ask like, do we have those books in Hungarian? So I was like, no. But yeah, this one it's actually, and this is a really good book. All right, thank you very much. Let's see. I think I have just one final question. So someone was actually saying that she would like to ask that about the next life task of the Egyptians. So if I understood this question correctly, that it can make sense. So why do we sometimes experience the past life in our current life that sometimes appears in our dreams?
Yes, dreams. During our sleep, we communicate with our higher self. So our astral body is in direct communication with our higher self. So the higher self has all the memories of our past lives. And so this is why in dreams, sometimes we do see who we are in our past lives. So this is something about dreams that are very, very unique. It can tell about our past, but it can also sometimes get influenced by other factors, as mentioned in the book, that can kind of suggest our actions for the future.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I'm not going to get into my personal experiences within this topic now, but thank you very much for the answer. All right, so I'm just going to wrap this up because there were some few more questions, but I think we kind of discussed those, so it's probably there is no point. What are you currently working on, and how can people reach out to you?
I'm actually currently working on audiobooks to make this like an audiobook in different languages. It's already in English, but we are trying to make better one with special sound effects as well. And also I'm trying to, as I'm a lawyer now, I can tap into different communities more easily than as a translator in the past. So I'm trying to bring this knowledge and information to the people who still rely on the mainstream media, who still don't necessarily know or realize that there are ET civilizations besides Earth. So I'm trying to tap into those communities and people in different parts of the world, not just in the US or China, but also like India and other countries.
Yeah, that's very good. So since when are you a lawyer?
Since a few months ago.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I knew that you have been translating, like you had this professional court translation, you are a professional court translator, or is it the right description?
Yes, certified court interpreter and translator. And now I'm a licensed lawyer in California.
All right, very good, very nice. Congratulations. All right, Samuel, thank you very much. So is that all right if I'm gonna leave your email out here below the video and your website, obviously your book. So is that okay?
Yes, of course. And also I would encourage you and your audience to spread the words and to encourage people to read the book, because this is the best investment that they're going to have in their entire life. Reading this book is the best investment.
Yes, yes. And this time they actually will, because it's in Hungarian as well. So that's very good. All right. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for accepting my invitation. And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Ha tetszett a videó, ne felejtsd el lájkolni, és oszd meg legalább egy ismerősöddel. Valamint csatlakozz a privát Facebook csoportunkhoz, és látogasd meg az online boltunkat. Az interjúk, a dokumentumfilmek folyamatosan vágás alatt vannak, szóval iratkozz fel, hogy ne maradj le. Köszönöm, hogy itt voltál, és további szép napot!